Welcome back to the Observe Day podcast, where we explore the stories behind the days and months we celebrate. September is National Read a New Book Month, the perfect time to discover fresh voices and perspectives. Today, we're spotlighting a new book that blends poetry with resilience and reminds us of the power of words to heal and inspire. My guest today is Nadine Ellis, Australian poet, academic, and author of The Grey Between. Nadine's journey spans survival, reinvention, and creative expression. She turned to writing in her 20s during one of the hardest seasons of her life, and poetry became both a refuge and a way to rebuild. Today, she's a university lecturer and the mother of 4 daughters, transforming her story of abuse, motherhood, and resilience into poetry that speaks to the human experience. Her new book, The Grey Between, captures the balance of light and shadow that we all live through. Welcome to the podcast, Nadine.
Thank you very much, Wisdom. That was a lovely introduction. Thank you. Very kind.
Yeah. At some point in time, it felt so long. I was like, oh, I like, calm down. I need to catch my breath. September is National Read a New Book Month. What does this observance mean to you as both a poet and a reader?
I think it's lovely because it sort of brings a focus onto the aspect of reading books and being a writer and just enjoying that whole process of creativity that we as authors can sort of share with people, and that whole process. And it's not just about reading. It's sort of educational, it's uplifting, it helps us to survive dark moments, or gives us insight into how other people live. So books are just magical, and I think it can save people as well. It has that healing power, or the ability to sort of open our eyes and see that we are not alone, that other things that we experience, other people also experience, and vice versa. And so it's just beyond just the book or beyond just the words. It has just this ability to sort of reach out and mean so much to so many people in a variety of ways. So I think celebrating the month it's lovely. Yeah, it's like birthdays, it's a moment where we can sit back and think about the meaning of it, or what it means to us, or just embrace it, and maybe sometimes give us that little reminder that it's maybe something that we should be doing a little bit more often if we've forgotten how to do it, or life got in the way. So it's a nice moment just to sit and reflect as well.
Your book, The Grey Between, it's a deeply personal book. So the question is, why do you think now is the right moment for readers to discover it?
Oh, yeah. Now, because it's out there. I think I love poetry, it's like magic to me to hear other poets read their work, or for me to read other poets' work, or reciprocally for people to read my words. I think it's just a precious sharing that we can spread out to other people. And I think I've been lucky enough to actually have had the book published. And so it's an opportunity for people to connect with me and to sort of understand me a little bit better, and for me to sort of share my experiences and how I've sort of been able to sort of get on top of things and go in a direction that I'm happy with now. And I think that's an eye-opener for people that might be going through hard times or challenging times for them. And if they can see or read that I have had these moments, and they can connect with that or resonate with that, I think that's a gift that I can at least share with people. And even if I can't talk to them face to face, they can at least see a bit of me through the book and resonate with their own lives. So yeah, now's a good time. Anytime's a good time to pick up a book.
Well, of course, definitely.
Yeah.
You've spoken openly about using poetry to process pain. And for me, I'm curious to know, how do you hope readers will use your book as part of their own healing journey?
But for people's own healing journeys, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So I think it the way I sort of see it, you either like poetry or you don't, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. If you are somebody who enjoys poetry or would like to try poetry, mine's probably a good one to start with, because I write about everyday life, and it sort of topics range from motherhood, family members, sort of relationships imploding, death in the family, how we sort of travel through that, all sorts of things that everybody experiences somewhere along the way. And I
Yeah.
think when you read poetry, you do bring your own life experiences to the reading. And I think people will either resonate with certain stories and they'll go, oh, yes, that's happened to me, or
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I know someone that happened to, and you sort of have this connection. And I think that sort of helps with your building of resilience. And sometimes you'll read something and it can trigger you. And some people might get a bit frightened of that and sort of go, no, I don't like this. But if you see it as an opportunity to actually address issues, because when we get triggered, it's because our body's saying, hey, we haven't resolved this issue, or
Yeah,
this issue that we've experienced, we've sort of pushed back and we need to at some point deal with it. And it's not necessarily forgiving people or confronting people, but it's accepting that something's actually occurred and then
yeah,
working our way through it to come to a better understanding, feel better about ourselves, and be able to move through it. And I think if you get triggered when you read things, you should just kind of look at it as if that's your opportunity to actually address it. And it's a good thing in that regard. It'll feel uncomfortable. And I think growing as a person, we need to push ourselves out of comfort zones. And if
yeah,
you can push yourself a little bit and get a little bit uncomfortable and have a moment to think about, why am I feeling this triggered, or why am I feeling this emotional about what I'm reading? That's a good opportunity to grow and to help resolve it. That's where you're building your resilience and be able to move through it and get from A to B, per se. So I'm not saying that the book is full of triggers, but there might be moments in there that someone might connect with or someone might feel a little bit triggered by. And I think that's a good learning experience for us all.
yeah. For the book, The Gray Between, how did it come together? Was it a situation where you're like, oh, I've written these poems, let me collect them together, and it's sort of with a team, or was it more like I'm going to write a book about the Gray Between, and then put the poems together?
Yeah, I think it was a lot along the lines of it's about 20 to 30 years of my life experiences that have really resonated with me. These are the moments when I really needed the writing to help me through the challenging times of my life. And that's things like when I was young, I was in a train crash as a 9-year-old. So I had a lot of post traumatic stress disorder to sort of deal with. So that comes through a lot in the poetry at times. My first marriage imploded. And so it's sort of dealing with the breakup of that relationship through to having postnatal depression with my children. I'm autistic, so a lot of neurodivergent sort of issues sort of creep in as well. As for the prompt, yeah, so these are the moments that kind of document my life in regard. And I think it just kind of grew into this. I like the grey zone. I like being under the radar. And I think that goes through like being a kid and being bullied. So I always kind of wanted to stay in the shadows and not sort of be a focal point. And so the grey between is kind of, well, that's the title. And for me, that was like, that's where I live, in my head and on the paper. So to make grey is black and white. So I've got like these 3 sections in the book, the between black and white. So the white, for me, a lot of the poems are more from a naive sort of base or from a more pure sort of thought. The black is like the heavy
Yeah,
things in life, and the in between was a bit of this, a bit of that. So that kind of just, for me, it was a nice way to sort of group the poems how I felt they sort of related to me and made sense in a way. But people will read it and they'll see something else in it, which is fine. It's
Yeah.
just I wrote them for myself as therapy, as like a cathartic process. So they fit in my life, reflecting those experiences. And it just became this really nice manuscript that was this document. And it literally sat in my office for like 20 years
Wow.
till last year. And I thought, I'm going to send it off. And lo and behold, it became a book, which is just great. So it was never me setting off to write a book. It kind of became a book
Yeah.
in the process. So for me, writing was always there. It was like my lifeline. It was just something that I did. And I think being autistic, it was really challenging for me to express myself verbally with people. So for many years as a child, I basically just didn't talk. And then when I got to school and started learning how to write, for me, the writing process was just liberating, and I could just jot down words or thought processes, and it helped me to sort of see my life and how I fitted into it objectively when I looked at the paper. And so it enabled things that were going on in my head to get out of myself as well. And then again, I could see
Mm.
them. And I think the neurodivergence played a huge part in that, but the ability to sort of see things on paper gave me that enough distance to sort of be able to see how the world revolved and where I fitted into that process, and to sort of work out why people were doing things to me or how I was sort of interacting with them. So
Yeah.
it's always been there, but thankfully it became a book, and now I can share that with other people, and hopefully someone can connect with it and feel a bit of peace within
Yeah.
themselves as well. Yeah.
The last time we spoke on a different podcast, you were kind and gracious enough to read um,
Oh, yes.
a
Would you like
section
some?
from the book. Yeah, the reason that I was hesitant about asking is I wasn't exactly sure if the book was with you or where you were
Yes, it's
recording
with
from.
me.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
So
yeah.
the question is, can you share a passage or poem from The Great Between, which is the book,
Mhm.
that you feel connects most with this month's theme of starting something new?
Yeah. Starting something new. What I've got a
Starting
nice
something
one.
new, a new beginning,
Yeah.
something like that.
I think for me, it's more like you were talking about with this podcast about celebrating life
Yeah,
moments and things like
yeah,
that. So I was thinking it's about looking back on poignant moments in your life and kind of acknowledging where you were at the time and then where you are now, like a birthday every year. So for me, this is sort of a poignant moment in my life that I didn't realize at the time. I was in my 20s. I was overseas living in Japan, and I had traveled to this far little island called Naha. And it was just a beautiful moment in my life that I look back at now and I realize, but at the time I didn't. All right. So this is
yeah.
called Naha Island. In later years, she searched the map, placed her island as an outstretched tip, about midway between a full stop and comma, fallen from her country sentence. The ice blue peacocks and albino hens, with their flushed eyes like the pink-eyed fruit bats that hung fruit-wrapped at dusk, strutted wherever she walked, and wherever she turned, azure touched her like unset agar-agar, coating a layer of salt. She'd never need to see that water again. It filtered to her heart. And later still, when thinking about her auburn hair, no more than just a thought, captured in even older photographs, now replaced with dreary faded brown and white. How she's pulled to those wistful times, upon sand, easing underfoot, or pondering water buffaloes tilling rice fields she passed, as the launch danced salty upon that blue heading to Naha. And at that interval, she didn't know those last East China Sea days, just being, would be her turning point.
Thank you. Wow.
Would you like another one?
Okay. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have time for another. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. This one is about getting older. So it's sort of like celebrating your birthdays. And I've just turned 60 recently.
Oh,
So this
congrats.
one, thank you. This one is called 6 Decades. My skin is a desert, not to be confused with desserts, says Wiki. Arid, dry flakes, imprints of the Kalahari, Sahara. These are so beautiful when spoken. A voluptuous woman created by the tongue interacting against teeth and mouth. But my forearms are so itchy. I'm not sure if I like the relief from my nails scraping against the scales, powering dusty DNA to fly free. A sweet lilt of icing sugar, dusted and gravity drawn to settle against the earth. Or the noise of keratin filing across dermal layers, grating years off my limbs. Either way, Valette doesn't like that sound and lets me know I'm doing it again, each time, unknowingly. Like Lady Macbeth wanting the red gone, I sweep the sands of time away.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your
My
poems
pleasure.
with me. Like it means a lot to me. Every time like there's this feeling I get when a poet reads their own poetry. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. What role did books and reading, because we're talking about writing poetry for you, but I'm
Yeah.
curious to see from the perspective of reading, what did reading play in your own transformation, especially during those difficult times, like some of them you mentioned, the divorce you had, and all those difficult times.
Mm. I think yeah, reading. It's always been challenging for me because I'm also dyslexic. So I kind of fell through the cracks when I was at school. Um, it hadn't been picked up till only a couple of years ago in my late 50s. So I kind of along the way formulated strategies to get through reading, but reading has always been a real challenge. But to be a writer, you need to read. So I found reading poetry helped me get um, my reading skills up because they were always sort of short phrases or verses, and the imagery, like the metaphors and the similes, enabled me to sort of see what or to visualize what the writer was saying. So I just fell in love
Yeah,
with poetry books. And I loved the American authors like Sharon Olds and Emily Dickinson and Gregory Orr. Their work it just would resonate with me. And I think also about the material, like a lot of trauma and just real life impacts. So
yeah,
I could resonate with those writers as well. But for me, very early on, when I was a little child, at ballet school, my ballet teacher sort of asked all the mothers to buy poetry books for the children to help sort of build culture. And so I remember Mum came home with this um, rewrite of Hilaire Belloc's Cautionary Tales. So that was really the first time I was introduced to verse. I don't really remember um, any particular poem in that book, but I've still got the book.
yeah,
And I think that was like a 1907 when he first wrote it. So it's very old, but it still has power. But I
yeah.
remember distinctly when I was at high school, one of our English teachers was handing out these photocopies of Emily Dickinson's Because I Could Not Stop for Death poem. Oh, and I remember hearing those
Stop for now.
words. Oh, it was so beautiful. And just the way she wrote about everyday occurrences, it was so emotive. And I remember, and I must have been like 14 or, that sort of age, and thinking, I want to do that. I want to be able to be emotive and put those words on paper, but I didn't make that connection that that was meaning to be a poet. So
Yeah,
for me, books they would just help me connect with the world, I think, and even I remember at that time in high school, we were also introduced to E. Cummings as well, and his poetry is just wild, with the different line breaks. And
yeah,
I'm not it's just, it's again, it's not for everybody, but I liked it. It was kooky, and And I liked that he could push the boundaries, and I thought,
Yeah.
"Oh, that suited me." I didn't want to be a conformist, but I also wanted to be connected, and I didn't have that feeling at the time. So books for me was a means of connecting with people as well. So like I said, it was hard for me to read, but I found reading of poetry books worked. And so I think it just helped me sort of formulate this love of poetry along the way because of my dyslexia and probably the neurodivergence. But I'm always saying, like, I think there's a lot of kids out there and even adults that find reading challenging. And you don't necessarily have to pick up a book these days. I think the world is fabulous now with technology that we've got ebooks, got audiobooks, there are comics,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of, and even magazines. You can start to enjoy that world of reading, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a hardback book like in the old
Yeah.
days. We can access that in a variety of ways now. And even just listening to stories, you can still transpose yourself or transport yourself to that magical place. I think it's great, and thankfully now a lot of kids are picked up earlier with as far as their reading disabilities or challenges, that a lot of problems that probably slipped through the radar years ago are now able to be picked up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
diagnosed. So yeah, and I think I've digressed from your question. Sorry, but I love
Yeah.
poetry books. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so, so much, Nadine, for reading out your poems and for sharing your story. Um, where can readers learn more about the work you do and connect with you?
Oh, yes, thank you. I have my author website, so that's www.nadineellis, NADINEELLIS.com. And that's mainly focused on the current book, The Grey Between. And then you can also see a lot of my new work on Instagram. So that's at Nadine Ellis Poetry, all one word. So there's a lot of new stuff on there. So yeah, and they can purchase The Grey Between. I'll just show you the book.
Okay.
There it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's available globally on Amazon. So it's out now. So please buy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much,
No, thank you.
Nadine. I'm just curious. It would be nice to have a copy where we can listen to the audio. I don't know. Do they do audiobook for poetry? But it would be nice to listen to the author
I think
read
they
out
do. Yeah, I've
the
got
poems.
some. I do read some of the poems on my author website, so you can go there. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it'd be
So that
nice to sort of have.
to have the audiobook, right? So that people can get
Yes,
that scope, like instead of buying the book, they can also buy the audiobook too and listen to
yeah.
that.
So we've
And
got to
that would be
work on
nice
that
too.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Nadine. It's been an absolute delight chatting with
Thank
you.
you. Lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.